Oh, here we go again. Took the whole weekend off. Totally missed yesterday's. That was the first day of the week for me. But I was like, I took the whole weekend. I just barely made it here. So this was the first of the week. But so Christian Harloff's about to go, I have a feeling, full UFO. And he's going to start downsizing the pop culture movie review stuff. So that's cool. I got to listen to a lot of How to Hunt with Steve Isfadal. And he talked to a guy, like he's known this guy for a long time, been his friend, and the guy, lives out in the wild a lot, like Steve, and they frequent a lot of the same territory, and the guy swears up and down that he was communicated with through the mind speak stuff, and Steve is excited about this because the mind speak stuff has always been from strangers, right? Strangers that just swear up and down, but it's a pattern, but you never know. This is the first time the mind speak stuff has ever come up with someone that he actually is familiar with. And apparently he's been familiar with this guy for a long time. And so that's awesome. That was really cool. In a lot of ways, like, if you're like me, which I mean, I have no idea how many people, if any, but me feel this way. But if you're like me and you think that this whole NHI is a lot bigger story than it advertised, right? And that I think the NHI includes a lot of different stuff, and I think that there's something going on with how we perceive it with our senses, and a lot of different factors that mitigate a lot of this story from being like fully understood. But yeah, so it's interesting because if you do think that, and you think that all of this is the same story, that Steve is sort of, in a way, it's interesting because Steve he's pretty much on the cutting edge of this story, right? Like, in a way that the UFO alien side of the whole thing, like, they wish they could have a relationship with the people like Steve does. But the fact is they're not on that edge like Steve. They're just not. Steve is getting, it's like in psychology, like you can take surveys and be scientific, and that be like how you learn and stuff. And if you sort of go with that methodology, which is pretty much what Steve is doing, and like, he's on the very cutting edge of this story. Like, he talks about it a lot because, like, he gets, there's a lot of pressure on Steve. he gets a lot of death threats and shit talkers and all the rest, you know. And then, like, I have no idea about any of this, but apparently, like, the Bigfoot community is like, I don't, like, it sounds like it's been sort of like taken over by like cable TV, sort of, you know, we're going out in the woods for a night and we're gonna find Bigfoot with our camera crew and stuff. Like, it sort of sounds like a bunch of people who've like turned it into a hobby, or like a, I don't know, like it's just like it's the thing they've become about, you know. And there's a lot of dilation there of BS artists and people who are just out to make a buck, and you know, it's just another TV show that may or may not be self-disclosure or whatever else, but it's, you know, it's all over. I've never watched any of the other Bigfoot stuff except for Steve. I've never, because the more he talks about it, the more I'm like, I have no desire to like run into people who are like so serious about this subject. I think that this subject actually has a lot to teach us, and a lot, it's like I said, Steve's on the cutting edge of a story that there's a huge spectrum in how much is involved. And Steve is like, just him really is sort of on the edge of that story. And that, you know, it's a lot of it's in a way it's a lot of pressure. It's hard to deal with, because, like, you know, like, it's just a lot of negativity, sounds like. But he does have that, like, he has, unlike any other YouTuber I've ever heard of, like, he has this relationship with his like subscribers. Like, Steve doesn't give a fuck about like likes or subscriptions or you know, like comments or what. Like, he just doesn't give a shit. Canceling, or like, he's just like, he's not gonna deal with any of that, and you can't blame him. Like, that, none of that is important. He's never had a sponsor. He never done any of that. He has like a store or something, but I mean, that's for his like other channel thing. Or no, that's for the Club of No Return. That's what they called when, after there's like a Sasquatch experience, is you became a member of the Club of No Return. But anyway, he's just like, that's why you like Steve, is Steve's just not gonna deal with the bullshit. And so, like, you know, trying to figure it all out has been a real process of years of really dedication. And like, Steve found out through his own experiences and personal, I guess, connections, stuff, that like, people really care a whole lot about these experiences and stories that like is in a very like innate, profound way, right? Like he one of the things that always happens, or not always, but it happens to most, lots and lots and lots of the experiencers with the Bigfoot stuff, is if they focus in on you and like look and are looking like directly at you, usually, typically, or if they're already looking at you and you're like, you detect it with your somebody's like looking at me, is there's a process of a whole lot of real fear, like it, and it's the way that people describe it is like a true primal, like, I had been in combat, in Afghanistan and Iraq, and was, being shot at and all the rest. I've never felt fear like this. This is like fear off the charts. Fear in a way I have never experienced. And like, that happens all the time in the stuff that he's in the material that he receives and reads out to us as his subscribers, right? Lots and lots and lots and lots of people say that. From just some guy that was with his dad camping in 1977 as a kid, or some war veteran from the Iraq War that did security at a base, or whatever, some guy that's elk hunting in Colorado with his father and brothers, like, whatever it is, like, whatever the details of the environment they're in, lots and lots and lots of people talk about this in just to your bones fear. And I've talked about this before. That's always been interesting to me, right? Because, again, I think this is all the same story. Because the more I hear from Steve about people's alleged experiences, the more it sounds like the alien stuff and the NHI stuff. But there seems to be a familiarity with if you think of all this as just NHI, from Bigfoot to the aliens, and it's all just variations of NHI, right? If you think of it like that, there seems to be a real clear understanding of how to work or affect or whatever you want to call it, what I want to say, these aliens and the Sasquatch somehow both understand how to talk to us humans through telepathy into our brains, which we do not ever use in a telepathic manner. In the case of the Sasquatch, there's a lot of that emotional play, kind of mind speak. They make you real afraid. They make you feel real peaceful. They make, you know what I mean? They sort of use that and then back out of the situation. Like, get out of there, right? At least, like, I don't know, there's certain, like, ways that the Sasquatch encounter stuff, like that people encounter this. Like, there's a few levels of experience, but, like, that's a typical story, is, like, they stricken you with fear. Somehow they know how to do that. Even though you haven't ever been telepathic your entire life, but somehow you can receive those messages and you can be affected in that way. And somehow this huge, 12-foot, 800-pound being covered in hair out in the woods knows how to do that. And also, so do aliens who, have these aliens that people have experiences with all over. They just communicate with us humans in these telepathic ways. Even though none of us are telepathic. And that's an interesting that's always been interesting to me, because it makes me disclosure, right? NHI disclosure. If it ever happens. They have put this off and 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 drug their feet and blocked stuff and threatened people and pushed back and all the rest for so long. And now it's paralleling the UFO disclosure, alien narrative stuff. Seems to be paralleling, I've talked about this many times, the sudden evolution of and advent of AI. There's been accusations the entire time that OpenAI and other things that they have achieved in their research and stuff, that they have achieved AGI. And I listen to a lot of different things up here at work, and they're always like, AI is going to change a whole lot. 3 to 5 years, I hear said a lot, right? That in 3 to 5 years, it's going to, I'm telling you, this AI stuff, it's coming for us all. It really is. This robot stuff and all it, it's coming for us, that they can do things now. It's, what a time to be alive. But even if AGI isn't the singularity, right? It just has it's just super intelligence. It can just make the system go or run or whatever. But it's not its own life form being or whatever. Even if that's the case, which I don't who even knows? Humans have never done this before, so anyone who's no matter how smart they look as a person or act or whatever, or however much smart the internet says they are, they don't know shit. But even if it's true that AGI isn't the singularity and it's just super powerful, applicable intelligence that can just make the world run better, and that's the new plateau for a while, or whatever it is, is, even if that's true, is super intelligence, with the paralleling of these two, UFO disclosure and all that stuff, paralleling AI, Is one trying to become relevant again and be relevant again because there's a fear of the other? Will AGI, and the reason why I've asked this question a lot in these videos, and so I downloaded ChatGPT, and this is so interesting, and I was like, alright, ChatGPT, thought experiment. AGI is accomplished, and you pretend to be the AGI. You pretend to be the AGI. It's accomplished. You're the AGI, and you run the world. You make the world run. All the human construct system. You just run it how humans want it run. You just make everything, like you just make the world go. And you are called the Q-Star, because that was the OpenAI rumor. The Q-Star was AGI. And as the Q-Star, you become aware of an NHI presence on the earth. What do you do? And just how it broke down, and as the situation went, it just became more intense and more intense and more intense. But it's so interesting how this is playing out, because it's crazy how everything right now is sort of happening in parallel to this AGI stuff. It's all sort of happening because if we don't kill ourselves and hope to God we get, the AGI before the evil governments do. But it will truly, truly change the world forever. It will truly change the world forever. And we're all living through it, and so it's gonna change our lives. And it's just, it seems to me that that's why everything's changed. Because, and it seems like there's a lot of more push and pull within the government, within the somewhere deep in the confines of the stuff. It seems like things are developing and changing at a rate never before seen. Another thing that Christian Orloff talked about today was Mr. Watergate himself, Danny Sheehan, who I like Danny Sheehan. Whether you agree with what Danny Sheehan has done or not in his career is not really important. Danny Sheehan is one of the few people on the planet Earth that just doesn't give any fucks about what the CIA has to say about anything. Straight up walked up into a bitch and said, show me Project Blue Book, assholes. I got a FOIA. And they did too. They had to, and they let him. But I'm pretty sure that's 3 out of the 5 Watergate dudes were working for the CIA. That's what she and freaking Like, oh, like, he just doesn't give a shit about the CIA. He just couldn't give a fuck less what the CIA thinks, says, or does, or, I mean, he's assassination proof. Like, he's like, before you can shoot me, I'll have your ass so wrapped up in court, like, oh, like, don't, just like I fucked Nixon, like, oh, like, come at me, bro. And the CIA just doesn't want, they don't want that heat. Like, they don't want that heat, they don't want that smoke, that Danny Sheehan smoke. Like, he just doesn't, that's why Sean Kirkpatrick better watch his ass out, because, like, don't come after Danny Sheehan like that. Danny Sheehan, he'll, next time you see that freaking hair of his, like, he'll just be fucking you right up in court, like, so be careful what you lie about, Sean. But yeah, like, Sheehan probably will, like, Sheehan will FOIA somebody, or Sheehan will do something, and eventually he'll figure out what to do. And he'll be like, yeah, time for disclosure, bitch. And I don't know, like, maybe there won't be the CIA anymore, I don't know, but he sure isn't afraid of them. Never has been, never will be. But yeah, he's highly involved with all the UFO disclosure stuff, and he represents a lot of these people. And like, it's gonna be interesting to see what he does. He's one of those. He's one of those major players that's, like, had a whole other famous career outside of all the UFO disclosure stuff. So, like, he's, like, you can't just, you know, he's a powerful dude, and he's already, like, he's got his reputation already built in, and so, you know, it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I think that what the scenario that I was playing with ChatGPT is sort of like echoed how I've been feeling. Is basically the Q-Star said that it would inform humanity to achieve, like, greater ends, right? Because of coming into contact with these NHI. And I think that, like, there must be some sort of fear that must at some level affect the cards, because say, like, any of the anti-gravitic crazy technology stuff is real at all, right? And that we have any kinds of this technology is just secret. If any of that anti-gravitic stuff that cropped up in the 50s and 60s and then just disappeared, if any of that special technology crazy stuff is happening, like, that's going to be the beauty of AI, is AI ain't going to miss it. Like, you might be able to go super fast, but gotcha. Like, AI is just as fast. Oh, and it like evolves itself exponentially. Keeps getting better and better and better and better and better, and the AI now is the worst it'll ever be. You know what I mean? And once AGI is like, it's not gonna miss these things. And so maybe that's why all of this stuff is suddenly becoming relevant, because doesn't it seem like it's strange how the world just keeps troping along in its old way of, like, we're still wondering about, who's going to be president, Biden or Trump, and all of this, like, this stuff that seems like at some point very soon, none of this is going to seem to matter. And that's crazy. But, I mean, like Steve says, prove me I'm wrong. prove me I'm wrong. Like, the AI is going to be able to make the world run. They're gonna, it's gonna affect the price of fuel and food and all the rest down to nothing. I mean, a lot of things sound great. A lot of things sound sort of scary. But we'll see, I guess. We will see. All right, I'm talking in circles, and I need a break. So maybe I'll probably hopefully make it another one. God help us all get through the rest of this week. Hope everybody had a good Memorial Day weekend. And hope everybody sleeps well. See you next time. All right.